end of the umbrella movement, didn't we say we will be back? And now we are back!
Hong Kong plans to allow some criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China.
There is a chance that tensions could flare and escalate.
The protester in Hong Kong was shot by the police.
Petrol bombs still being thrown.
Protests did become more violent today.
Increasingly violent manifestations.
And of course, 2019 was kind of like the last dance.
People in Hong Kong are facing an ever-widening crackdown.
Following a parliamentary vote to impose new national security laws.
We've seen over 60 civil society groups disband, Democrats behind bars, and protests now have all but disappeared.
Some critics fear it is, quote, the end of Hong Kong as we know it.
They were doing mass arrest in 2021, and that gave me a clear red light signal of pulling out.
那时候律师就提醒我，那你的政治风险可能会越来越大哦。我说，那不如我就离开吧。
The brain drain didn't stop. All right, it just continues.
Hong Kong residents are leaving in droves.
In light of our historic commitment,
Britain is going to provide a path to citizenship.
While many Hong Kongers have set off for the UK.
真的是有非常多的香港民众希望能够来台湾。
香港人民有权利追求自己的民主，我们会永远支持这样的普世价值。
The UK is extending that path to 3 million BNO passport holders.
移民台湾现在成为香港的一个重要选择。
台湾来撑香港，那我们来保卫台湾。
Following the new security law, Hong Kong's total population fell substantially for the first time since 1961, and emigration numbers broke records set in the 90s as fear of the approaching UK-China handover drove a prolonged exodus. And this time, as columnist Jason Rhodey writes, it will be different. This time, the leavers are not coming back.
And Taiwan already missed a lot of those talents. Unfortunately, Taiwan government have made a lot of bad moves and have successfully created a lot of bad news.
目前香港人面对的一个最大的困难就是，到底我申请了之后，会不会有一个固定的一个时程，然后去获得一个回复？
过来，另外一个就是专业移民来到台湾，规定过去真送专业移民来，待期限到，就给你摕到身份证啊，即马无啊。
我那个时候申请到发出这个居留证才3个月就可以了，后来爆发这个反送中了。我弟弟申请，他用了大概19、20个月，就长很多。
Particularly Hong Kong groups in Taiwan don't want to always frame the Tsai administration as having betrayed Hong Kongers because that would lead to backlash against Hong Kongers as ungrateful. And so there's a dilemma there. I mean, there's definitely some work going on to help, but there's not enough.
如果台湾排斥香港人的话，那会觉得当时台湾人的那种热情是假的吗？
如果说没有一个所谓的审查门槛，可能会导致国家安全上的一些疑虑，但也可能是因为这些门槛，让那些真的需要被帮助的香港民众被排除在外。
那个时候就是台湾有一个撑香港的论述嘛，大家可能可以看待这个事情来说，就是所谓的撑香港到底是用什么样的方式？
所以我们希望台湾政府不但是自由的台湾称香港的自由，更加希望台港同行，更多台湾人要了解这些人是什么一回事。
In 2021, an Oxford poll found that for Hong Kongers with British national overseas passports, Taiwan was only just behind the UK as a first choice for immigration. Yet while more than 150,000 Hong Kongers have already settled in Britain, less than 37,000 have been granted the right to remain in Taiwan. Individuals granted the right to reside number in just a few thousands. An agent who has worked in Hong Kong-Macau immigration since the 90s estimated that only around 2% of all applicants have received settled status since 2019. Earlier this year, a document published by the National Immigration Agency, though quickly retracted, seemed to encapsulate the growing sense of a suspicious government and harsh immigration environment. Among other things, the document prohibited Hong Kong and Macau residents from engaging in political events such as protests, demonstrations, speeches, or distributing flyers. and election-related events like giving speeches on stage or car parades.
That statement being released, perhaps as a trial balloon to see what the public reaction would be, or just by accident, that is quite outraging. And I think also maybe does show when bureaus of the government overstep their bounds and don't realize they are infringing upon basic political freedoms.
I think the most serious problem is that it seems like the Mainland Affairs Council take for granted that Hong Kong people are 100% equal to the Chinese people.
So with accidents like this, why does government support seem so strong in public and mixed in private? How much of this hesitance is a result of national security concerns? And how much truth is there to an idea now embedded all over the world, that Hong Kong and Taiwan are a community of shared destiny, with a common struggle and mutual responsibility? Welcome to Finding Formosa. Unsafe Harbor. Taiwan has been colonized many times in its brief but colorful history, most recently by the Kuomintang, a nationalist party founded in China to unify those lands in the dying days of the Qing Empire. Losing a civil war to the Chinese Communist Party, the Kuomintang retreated to Taiwan, bringing their laws, constitution, and claim to sovereignty of all China with them.
The way that we treat mainland China, Hong Kong, and Macau is very weird in our system of law.
现在台湾的官方立场会说是中华民国是台湾，或者是中华民国在台湾，但是我们的宪法还是本来中华民国政府在中国的时候写下来的那个宪法。所以在现在为止，我们都还是认为说，我们的固有领域包含大陆地区跟香港澳地区。
在这个宪法的框架底下，台湾一天还没能够找出一个很明确的答案底下，其实我们作为一个在台湾的香港人，到底我们被算是国家的国民吗？还是被定义为一个外国人？
There's no institutionalized rules for the Hong Kongers and also for other political refugees. 然后因为每次讨论难民法，就一定会处理到这个问题。 那在现在的情形，如果我们来处理这个问题，很可能会被美国啊，或者是其他的国家说，你们是不是在搞台独啊
We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo.
Yet while there are serious constitutional concerns, exceptions have for a long time been the rule.
香港在90年代的背景下，会不会认为说还是比中国还要自由，而且它还是有一国两制？在这个前提之下，会觉得说它既然比较自由的话，我们可以给它比较好的优惠。
And it was this special offer which allowed the government to create a brand new department and begin rapidly processing asylum cases in 2019. So, if the government can skirt constitutional barriers when it suits them, what is actually blocking Hong Kong immigration?
面对中国的体制问题，台湾跟香港两地的一个问题是共同的。
他们派战斗机过来，动不动就禁止你的农产品跟海产进口去大陆，而且每天都有。
我们的利益现在在此刻是一致的，就是我们都有同一个敌人。台湾如果要深化自己的民族，要防卫自己的生活方式，那要对抗那个中国。
For me, any Taiwanese who think, oh, if we just surrender, then life goes on. No, I think if we surrender, the CCP will turn the Taiwanese into slaves.
所以在这种情况之下，我还是希望台湾更认识到自己的责任，接受更多的香港人。
This visceral sense of an anti-authoritarian struggle and mutual responsibility binding Hong Kong and Taiwan has reached a global audience.
Last month, could Taiwan follow in Hong Kong's footsteps?
Today Hong Kong and tomorrow Taiwan.
Hong Kong today.
Say today Hong Kong, tomorrow Taiwan.
Hong Kong is in the pocket. Now it's time for Taiwan.
China is tightening its grip on Hong Kong. Will Taiwan be next?
Is Taiwan next?
Taiwan will be next.
Taiwan be next. Next.
The next. The next.
The next.
But it may be that this very passion is driving a wedge of misunderstanding between Taiwanese and Hong Kongers.
We Hong Kongers have witnessed and experienced firsthand the CCP's suppression. So for us who love freedom and democracy, we'll see the CCP as our first enemy. But for the Taiwanese, no, this is only, of course, I find out after I arrived and do some research. I find out the Taiwanese might not see it that way.
I think oftentimes you do have people coming here and maybe being disappointed that Taiwan does not live up to their expectations. I mean, there is this kind of idealization of Taiwan as a beacon of democracy.
我们会常常听到所谓"今日香港，明日台湾"这个口号。这个口号的意思就是香港跟台湾其实是命运共同体。以中港台的关系来说，香港人的哈台风气，其实基本上是因为不断恶化的这个中港关系，就是中港矛盾其实是驱动了，或者是推进了香港把希望跟情感寄托在台湾，这是一种反中共同联盟的想象。
For me, Hong Kong is an occupied zone, and now I cannot fight there no more, so now I retreated back here, which is the next battlefield. So yeah, I actually worry much more than the normal Taiwanese.
就可能也是啦，的确，就台湾基本上可能也是真的反中的最后的战线了哈。但台湾还有一个很重要的特质嘛，就是香港人也很爱的小确幸嘛，所以我们也不是24小时都是在激情的反中的嘛。对吧？所以这些移民在香港经历了激烈的雨伞运动也好，反修例运动也好，他来台湾生活之后，他所想象的反中可能没有那么激情。
Even as Taiwanese are generally less actively engaged with the fight against authoritarianism, appeals to a common destiny or shared struggle can sound dangerously similar to ethnic solidarity, the mere mention of which causes hackles to rise in Taiwan.
今年6四天安门事件的国殇之柱，在去年12月遭到拆除。
在6四天安门事件33周年这天，被搬到台湾的自由广场上了。尽管在香港已经无法再公开追悼6四，
所以台湾已经成了一个唯一的被公开纪念6四的华人的国度。
They attempt to crowdfund a 3D printed replica. They only got part way through, but they still do have it and they still bring it around. And there's a notion then of bringing the various things that cannot exist in Hong Kong here. In past years in Hong Kong, there's debate, controversy about whether to commemorate Tiananmen Square, with the view that this took place in China, which is viewed as a different polity, as a different country. Regardless, when it still could happen, it's still tens of thousands of people. In Taiwan, it's only a few hundred people. There's other things like that as well, but oftentimes the framing is in terms of this kind of shared ethnic Chinese struggle for democracy. And so with the view that Taiwanese are not Chinese, that rubs some people the wrong way.
有些台湾人会开始讲一种言论是说，由于中共的洗脑，所以现在他们立刻就已经成功了把现在还留在香港人全部都变成中国思想的人。这样的时候，他们可以更有理由说我们要防范这样子的香港人。
台湾现在看待香港就是一个已经被中国收回去的地方。雨伞的时候可能还没有那么夸张，但是反修例之后到国安法。基本上大家已经是这么看待了。
And so then with regards to Chinese attempts to infiltrate politics or affect elections, then what of Hong Kongers? Honestly, I think it's an often somewhat absurd claim because Taiwan is a free and democratic society, and there are ways to invest or come here and travel as a student or whatever that already existed. And so why do you have to go this extra step of pretending to be a Hong Konger?
For some, this all points to why the Tsai administration has been so hot and cold in dealing with Hong Kong immigrants.
I think particularly in the lead up to the 2020 elections, it's very expedient for Tsai Ing-wen to leverage this notion, to say that she would help Hong Kongers out for politicking.
That's when Taiwan's president, Tsai Ing-wen, ran this campaign ad, using Hong Kong as a political message. On the left, Taiwan's peaceful life. On the right, the frightening life in Hong Kong that year. She won her re-election in a resounding landslide.
But then after elections, well, I mean, Hong Kongers cannot vote. And in Taiwan, there's also always been this concern about how outsider groups would vote. For example, mainlander spouses, Chinese spouses of Taiwanese. And this has been a group that the KMT has really sought to outreach to as a potential voter bloc.
While Help for Hong Kong is popular with a younger subsection of voters, polls have found that a majority of Taiwanese do not actually support widespread Hong Kong immigration.
其实对我来说，历史上面对香港有义务都是英国吧。我想，其实台湾，其实并没有到所谓的那个义务的问题，反而我自己个人是希望，其实台湾可以就是在思考到底为什么要去关心香港，或者是去帮助香港。他们是出于过去有一些相近的文化背景，或者是一些历史。可是我个人反而会想要，单纯是我们因为支持民主自由的价值观才去帮助香港。 希望其实台湾跳脱这个国族的一个论述去看待这些事情，跳脱这个框架底下，其实大家可能是更容易去找出为什么要去帮助香港或者是其他地方的一个原因吧。
This feeling that Taiwan does not owe anything to Hong Kong on the basis of shared history, ethnicity, or destiny was, in fact, shared amongst almost every immigrant that we spoke to. There is, as much as anything else, a deep gratitude, and a sense that the root of all this is just a series of misunderstandings caused by a highly charged information environment and the sensitivity of identity and self-expression.
身边其实也有一些朋友去了英国、加拿大、澳洲这些，他们也是会有遇到一些问题。可是刚好台湾这一边，因为资讯啊或者是交流比较频繁，这些问题被看见了。有时候你必须要看见到，才能有机会去改善或者是在解决这些问题，就是一个可能未来就是慢慢彼此之间可以探讨的一个关系吧。
也很感谢台湾政府的帮忙啦，就是迅速的处理好我的个案，然后很快就可以批准我来到台湾拿到签证这样。
我是新的台湾人，我也爱这个地方，我也要出一份力。台湾人介绍包容我们这一群外地来的，算是难民吧。谢谢你们，谢谢台湾人。
Tell you the truth, I'm really grateful that Taiwan gave me this chance to come here. And I used to joke, everything in Taiwan is great because I'm from hell.